What's up, podcast fans? Adam from the podcast. It is draft day. We are here getting you set for the QMJHL draft, which is live tonight, round 1, Friday night. Round 2 through 14 is tomorrow at the Avenir Center. But to get you set, we've got the Maritime Division Media Roundtable. We had a lot of interviews the weeks leading up to it. We got Jamie Tozer from Station Nation. We got Colin Landry from the Moose Fans. We got Taylor Stewart from Islands Communications. We got Pat McNeil from the Eagles play-by-play as well. We got Johnny Rocket, the Titan Insider, getting you set for what they're doing at the draft, what they think is going to happen in the draft, and their team coming up into this year. So if you're just not a fan of the Wildcats and you want to see those, you can find what they're thinking about your team here on this show as well. If you like this content, we've got more of it all on our YouTube channel. So don't forget to like, smash that subscribe button, click the little bell so you're notified when we go live, either at the draft tonight or when we have player interviews of the newest Wildcats. Oh, it's an exciting time. The draft is tonight, 7 p.m. Enjoy the show.
I'm assuming you haven't had much time to kind of assess this roster and kind of what you're looking for in a roster. And I know we've had the former GM Richie on a few times and talked about how you build a draft board together and set things up and what picks you have. And you know, it's a cup or bust kind of year that you guys are jumping into. And, you know, we alluded to it earlier, Drummondville, first-time GM, first-time coach with that team. They had some success, so we're kind of thinking maybe. But have you talked to the scouts? Have you started to put a draft board together? I guess just how has the transition been from Richie, who we've had on a few times, to now you for the draft board as we get ready for the draft in about 3 weeks?
Yeah, no, it's a quick one, and that's part of the reason I am where I am right now. Is I spent the day with a couple of our scouts and our head scout and Alex Gauthier, and you just want to, again, you want to familiarize yourself with them, and they've been working all year, so ultimately that's why you have a head scout anyway. But particularly in this season, you know, their opinion is always heavily relied upon, but in particular this year, right? And again, it's just kind of we absolutely have to expedite some processes, but we can't cheat those processes either. And
right.
And it's about getting to know them as people and just kind of what they look for in players. And they've done a great job of drafting in the past, so have a lot of trust in them. And I also have a prior working relationship with these guys too, right? Like obviously it was a different dynamic, but it wasn't like I was the personalities that I'm getting to know. It's not like I'm meeting them for the first time. We had a working relationship prior to me accepting this role.
And just the last one there, Taylor, before we let you go, at the UNB press conference, I put down Gardner. I don't know if I should call him Gardner or your dad or what I should
Mr.
call him. Mr. McDougal. You know,
he's in my phone as coach. So whatever rolls
coach.
Off
Okay, let's say coach.
All right, you heard it here first, everyone.
Yeah,
it's coach.
Coach referred to you as a master recruiter. So with that being said, without giving away any secrets, could we see some surprises on the Wildcats roster next season?
You never know, right? Like, and I don't think it's funny. Recruiting, everybody always pictures it being associated with selling or being some sort of sales pitch, and I think of it as just expressing kind of what you believe in and what you believe to be true and what you're passionate about. And in the Moncton Wildcats case, I think there's a lot to be passionate about and a lot to offer players. We want Moncton, as it has been in the past, we want Moncton to be a place that everybody wants to play in. Right. And so we want to educate those players on just kind of what our goals are moving forward, both imminently, but also long-term for them as players, for them as people, and also for the area of Moncton too, right? Like we're fortunate to live in the place that we do. So we just want to educate players on how fortunate we are to have what we have and how we want them to be a part of it. And if we do that correctly, then I think it can be a pretty convincing place to come play. But in terms of what that has in store for the future, we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, from one podcast debut to another, we continue our draft preview now, the Maritime Division. This time we go to the island, and we have a first-time guest. He is the game day operations and communications manager for the Charlottetown Islanders, Taylor Stewart. Taylor, first of all, thanks for doing this, as I'm sure it's getting kind of busy for you as the draft gets closer. Just how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. We're getting things together now in the office. Small crew, but we're getting everything organized from the reception. Coach and staff started their player interviews, so the ball is rolling, and we're excited to get to Moncton.
So obviously, it's Holton hockey out there in the island, and he's been around for a bit doing both jobs there. So as he prepares for a draft and what's kind of the next step season, you guys started your rebuild, and now you're kind of making that push. Where is this team in terms of how this draft's going to go for Islanders fans?
In terms of how it's going to go, I think people can be excited for what we've got in the works.
Oh, we lost you.
Interviewing a lot of.
We lost you there for a minute. Yep, there we are.
Yeah, so I know Jim and Guy, they're doing player interviews now. We don't have a first-round pick this year due to deals in the past, but I know they're doing their research and are excited about where we sit right now in the draft. And in terms of in the future, we just signed Donald Hickey there at Newfoundland. He'll be down next season, so that fills a big hole that we had over the past couple of years now, having a solidified goaltender, a young guy to come in and really join the ranks of where this team's at in terms of age, as well as join two other Newfoundland boys that he knows signed on, and just the general development of our prospects, getting Marcus Kiersey another year, getting Anthony Flanagan, who had a decent rookie campaign, giving him another year, and Matthew Butler and Ross Campbell and those guys, just giving the core a chance to have a good offseason and mesh together, and then maybe add one or two more key pieces in the offseason here. And I think next season is going to be really competitive and exciting hockey for sure, as an Islanders fan.
Yeah, looking at the draft board for the Islanders, like you said, no first round pick. From what I'm seeing, no second round pick either. First pick will be in the third round. I guess how difficult does that make it for a team like Charlottetown, given where they are in their build? To not have a first or a second, and they have to work with what's left on the board come the third round.
I don't think it's really been a huge issue for Jim in the past, as you've seen from other draft prospects and other picks they've made. Come like round 3 through even 8, they've really found some key guys to add to the roster. Ross Campbell was a middle of the round kind of guy. Matthew Butler didn't go until round 4. So it's really more so about the interviews and how they go, and then just about what Jim and them see in the prospects that we can get when we're drafting. Because, like I just said, as you've seen from the roster there, we got a lot of guys who will be coming into this core next year that weren't necessarily a first or second round pick. So I think the whole staff and the entire Charlottetown Islanders organization and their fans should have good faith that despite not having a first or second round pick, Jim and he and the rest of the staff there will be able to find some more diamonds in the rough, or some guys that maybe split past some other teams' boards, but fall to us and then turn into really, really good prospects down the road for us.
The decor that you guys got, I mean, it's obviously built around Kiersey, and you had Topolnitsky, and talk about your first round pick last year in Owen Conrad, and just kind of the steps he took this year, and what that pair can do in a couple of years when you guys are just kind of pushing the envelope.
Owen Conrad had a tremendous rookie campaign, in my opinion, and I think the organization, I know Jim and the guys were really happy with what they saw for him as a 16-year-old. He's a big body, right? And
yep.
Coming in at 16 at the Q is not the easiest for anybody in terms of their development, but Owen came in with a bang, had 2 overtime winners back-to-back at the start of the year. Slowed down a little bit throughout the remainder, but he's a guy that they're really excited about. He's a big defenseman, which in terms of nowadays Q, big defensemen don't come easy. So it's nice to have him in the ranks, and I know that they're really hoping. We had that Cormier-Lowen pairing in the past, and I think that's kind of the hope, is that, not to say they won't be as good as Lowen or Cormier, but the hope is that if everything goes well, that Kiersey and Conrad could eventually end up being like our next Cormier-Lowen pair. You got a really big guy in Conrad there that can not only play offensively, but he's got a good defensive mind to him. Marcus is the same way. He's an elite offensive talent. Despite his small stature, he's still really good at defending. He's got a really good hockey IQ. So they're really excited to see what this offseason holds for Owen in terms of just his workouts, his development, because they know what they have in him, and if he works on getting that foot speed up just a little bit more, they're really excited, and we all are really excited just to see what he can turn into.
Yeah, one of the guys on the back end, Topolnitsky, is obviously going into his 19-year-old season, and could garner some interest, from some of the contending teams this year in terms of, a 5'6" depth defenseman that might even get you guys into the, into the second round. Do you see any urgency in moving him to maybe move up in the draft, or is he more of, let's hang on to him for until at least Christmas and see what the price is like then?
I don't really feel that there's been any urgency surrounding the organization. I know Jim and Guy, they're really interested in looking just what's out there. They're not necessarily going to shut the door on any deal if it's good enough, like any hockey coach or any GM would tell you. If someone comes knocking, they're going to listen, obviously. But I don't feel there's been a sense of urgency around this team now to get a deal done. They're comfortable where we are right now. We got a blueprint laid out, and if things can happen, as always in hockey, but right now I think it's just kind of stick to the blueprint, and if the right deal at the right time comes along, then we'll see what happens.
So I guess just the last one from us. I mean, we usually see you on those videos trying to get the fans excited, get the tickets sold. Just what is the appetite for this team? I know you guys were a little bit of small sellers at the deadline last year, and no picks in the first couple rounds, which happens when you kind of go all in. But I guess just what's the appetite of the fans on the island for this upcoming draft and upcoming season?
Obviously, like you said there, we were big sellers there for a while. We've never really gone through a total rebuild. Like this last year here was kind of like tearing down to the studs, and we haven't really seen a lot of that on the island lately. We've been really fortunate to have a lot of highly competitive Charlotte and Islander hockey teams. But despite the fact that we might not have been at the top of the standings, we set a new record this past season in attendance in terms of games over 3,000. We had 11 straight games over 3,000 fans in the seats. So the appetite for hockey is there. People were out in bunches supporting us this past year, and we were greatly appreciative of it. And I think it's just going to keep rolling. We had a lot of good uptake, as I mentioned earlier, with Don Dickey signing. A lot of people got engaged with that post and got excited to know that there's a goalie of the future now. We've had a long list of really good goaltending come through the island, and I think they're excited just to see that next guy up is here, and he's coming down this next season. Season tickets, they've been going out the door fairly well. We're obviously still pushing. You're always going to be pushing to try and bring more people into the rink, but in terms of just general fan interest, we've seen a lot of really, really positive stuff on our social medias in terms of ticket sales, post engagements, and like I said, with last year's ticket sales over the 3,000 mark and 11 straight games. I mean, if people want to come out for when we're rebuilding, then they're obviously going to want to keep coming out when we're more competitive and we have more of a chance out there in the ice.
Yeah, and we're tired of playing you, I'll be honest with you. It's always tough games, and they always go to overtime. So we know what we're in for when we're playing Holton hockey. So we are tired of playing you guys, so hopefully we get a few more W's this year against you, because we know it's going to be a lean couple of years. But again, Taylor, thanks for joining us and making your podcast debut, and obviously hope to see you at the draft in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you.
All right, back-to-back guest debuts. Now we go to, well, you know him. You love him. He's from the North Shore. He's got about 15 podcasts, so he's all over social media. And he's third on the list for the most guest appearances, Mr. Johnny Rocket. How are you, buddy?
Well, I was awesome, but I'm kind of disappointed that I'm third on the list.
I know.
That's kind of a loser number, so I'll have to get up that list for sure. But, yeah, I'm doing great. What about you guys?
Well, I mean, as you've seen on social media, we've had some things to talk about that, well, you're tired of us talking about, eh?
Well, so people, I know guys have a lot of new fans. My last name is not McDougal, but I can still put on a heck of a show. So let's get ready.
Absolutely. And, yeah, we tried to get you second, but Pat keeps coming to one. Every time he knows you're on the show, he's like, I got to do it. I got to keep my lead up. So unfortunately,
Friggin' kid, Breton guy.
yeah, you can take that up with him at the draft. I guess, man, the draft is coming up, but let's just quickly talk about the run that Bathurst went on. Sweeping Halifax, getting to the second round. A sweep against Baie-Comeau, but it was a lot closer than I think the scores would indicate and a sweep would indicate. Just talk about quickly the end of the season for Bathurst.
Well, first of all, I think Bathurst was the biggest opposition of Baie-Comeau except Drummondville, so that's kind of nice because all the other series were like so one-sided. And the one with Halifax, I mean, yeah, it was realistic to say that the Titan had a chance, but to sweep them in 4 games, I mean, that was unfriggin' real. A lot of experience that our young guys were not supposed to get, but they got, which is friggin' awesome. So 8 games in the playoff for most of our 16 and 17 guys is like above and beyond what we were expecting.
Yeah.
So for us, I mean, everything was really good. Obviously, we would have loved like maybe 1 win against Baie-Comeau at home just for the fun of it, but they were still pretty tight game, pretty well fought, and this season was, in my book, way better than I thought.
Does that kind of lead into next season where, obviously your expectations are going to go up? And I know you guys are getting a couple guys that I know a forward and a defenseman that's going to help your roster. Is we're looking at where you're at right now. You're probably going to have 2, possibly 3 first-round picks. How's this team going to look next year, and where do you think it's going to, I guess, compare with the likes of Moncton and Chicoutimi and Cape Breton and Rimouski and
the whole damn Eastern Conference, apparently?
Well, I mean, I'll be deadly honest. Nobody in the Eastern has a chance against the Titan next season. We're going to finish first, and screw you guys. No, honestly, I mean, I think this season was kind of odd because so many guys like overperform what they were supposed to do. Rollins and Orr, obviously everybody in the league knows them by now. And Huggin came out of nowhere, had this career year. We got a random goalie, a random French goalie that came aboard and played his ass off, especially in the playoff. All those guys except Huggins, Orr and Rollins are gone for sure. But Keller still has a tiny chance of coming back as a 20 over an overager European, which would be the perfect scenario in my book because I don't want to say that and sound negative, but I think that people might see us a different way that they are supposed to see us. I think we will have maybe a little bit of decrease next year. We'll make the playoff. I can't see that not happening, but I think people are maybe putting us ahead of where we are in our rebuild, which is in year 2 officially. Definitely Pettigrew and Bélanger Laberge will have like bigger ice time, bigger stuff to do, and our first pick, 2 of our first round pick this year will more than likely make the team, depending who they are, and maybe our second will also do it. But yeah, in terms of next season, if we finish at the same place that we did this year, for me, it will be a win. If we finish over 11, it will be like a really big surprise for me. But I'm kind of expecting a little bit of a drop, maybe like around like 14, 13, because our team will be really young next year. And it's just normal. This year, a lot of guys overperform, and we got some points that we were not supposed to get, especially after Christmas, where we traded like 4 of our 19-year-old and some pretty awesome offensive players. So everybody was expecting us to crumble, but we did the total opposite. So it's kind of a weird year. So I hope people are not like upset if we have a lower or same year as the last year for this year.
Yeah, I think you're kind of probably 5th in the division or in the conference.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which is kind of where you finish based on what's coming down. But I mean, you guys are getting some. I mean, your team's been the one that's had the rumors the most. I mean, we heard one for Rimouski, haven't heard much out of Moncton, but I mean, you touched on it there with goaltending with Keller and Fleming. Are they both there till Christmas and kind of like last year, see what Fleming can get you at the deadline for a team that's kind of maybe not happy with their goaltending or looking to improve on their goaltending? Or do you kind of see it as, Keller's the 20 in the Euro and it's his show and we can move Fleming at the draft for an extra second or a third? I think you guys got like 45 selections or something this weekend. Like, it's a good thing it's close for you to be here. But what do you see between the pipes?
Well, first off, I sure hope that Keller will be back. Nothing has been confirmed yet. When he left after our elimination, I know where he was living, his billet family, and they basically said that a goodbye. It was a goodbye for them. But so I guess something happened back in France that he was supposed to make an ex-team from Program France, and he did not make that team, and everything changed from that point on. Now he has a bigger chance to come back. But if he comes back, I don't see why it wouldn't be like our number one goaltender. I mean, nothing against Fleming, but this year he definitely lost his number one spot to Keller. I can see keeping both of them up until Christmas, but I don't really like that, but because I want to build for the future, and I have a big feeling that the Titan will pick a goalie this year high in the draft, like probably in the second round. And I really want to have that guy as a backup next year to get experience, hopefully behind Keller. And basically, if they're keeping Keller and Fleming, that guy will be the third string, basically not getting dressed, like not playing pretty much all the year. Because if you keep Fleming, you're obviously going to tell him that when Keller is not in the net, you are in the net, because what would be the point of him staying with the team for the fun of it? So my best case scenario is Keller's coming back and X guy we drafted is the backup. And worst case scenario, Keller is not coming back. Fleming gets the pole position, and we still have a good backup in a rookie. And hopefully that Fleming will have a better year than he got last year. That's exactly what I'm hoping for.
I guess outside chance you can trade Keller if they're both back before Christmas too, right? Like if there's an injury and there's a spot, you can move a Euro and a 20 before the deadline. So there's that third option.
Just that I know, obviously Keller would have like the higher upset in terms of draft, like capital. But next year, there's so many good goaltenders out there. So I don't think like there would be like any big value, especially that Keller would be considered a Euro and an overager.
True, yeah.
So, and between you and I, again, it's nothing against Fleming, but I don't think that guy has any value on the market. I mean, any like reasonable value, I mean, you could probably get like a 6, 7, or 8 round picks for him, but what's the point of keeping that for that? So
Nassau Filion got a first round pick, so
well,
don't say that.
But he was not 20.
That's true. That's true.
Very true. Yeah. No, looking at the draft board, Bathurst's first pick is looks like 9th overall. Do you see it more as a positional pick or best player available?
Well, any draft guy will say it's definitely the best player available. And between you and I, we have needs definitely up front. We need talent up front. We also need a young up-and-coming goalie. But at 9, there's no goalie reasonably that will pick at that place. So that definitely will be a forward. I can also see a defenseman, but he will more than likely not make the team next year because all our players are coming back, and we're basically switching Igor and Bramway for fuck it, I'm going to say his name because it's already out there. François-James Buteau from Rouen-Oranda.
What?
So our defense will be copy-paste. So why would you keep a 16-year-old rookie like at 8? So he basically goes upstairs and watch like 60 of the 64 game next year. So, unless Dwyer turns things around and trade some guys at defense for assets, and then all of a sudden there's 1 or 2 spots for a rookie, which at this point there's none. So that's why I think they will pick a forward with the 9th pick, and maybe with the 18th pick they will pick a defense, but we'll see where that lands. Maybe we'll trade that pick. Maybe we'll have another first round pick. I can't wait to go to Moncton, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, no, we're very excited to have you here screaming every 6 picks. Yeah!
Oh, jeez. And you guys know how passionate I am. I already have my list of players I want the Titan to draft. So all the players that will get drafted, not from the Titan, I will just be pissed off.
Well, I'll tell you what, we will. There's a potential we're gonna go live at some point in the first round. So if we do that, we need you. We need your beautiful face to pop on our YouTube. Just the last one, I guess. Unbelievable season, ahead of expectations for the fans. It's a tough market up there. I know the game that we were at, the building was pretty full. Now our bus load was half your fans, but when that building was going, that building is loud for us being there the first time. I guess just what's the fan expectation? What's the fan level excitement as we get into the draft and into the upcoming season?
Well, basically at this point, I think all the real fans of the Titan can't wait for the announcement of the team being sold to new owners, which will happen in the next few weeks, to know who they are, to know what they want to do with.
Wait, did
like,
you just
the
bury
arena,
the lead?
what-
Did we just bury the lead? Do you know who it is? Can you break news that's coming out or what?
Well, it's going to happen before the draft. I can guarantee you that.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So I can't say who it is because I don't have names, but I know that the Hurts and Youngs thing that the Titan announced a few months ago turned really well, better than expected. And there is no more doubts in my mind that this team is here to stay, and this new ownership group or person or couple or whoever it is going to put money and love in this club, and that's exactly what this team needs. A team that can actually work social medias and make sense with the social media. You understand how marketing works, getting some better, bigger sponsors that are not in the region, like more national kind of stuff. And that's exactly what they bring on the table. So I honestly think that in the next few weeks, when everything will be announced, obviously the group that is here now saved the team, because without them, this team would have been gone more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I sure hope that everybody will thank them for all their hard work, especially during COVID, and welcome with their arms wide open the new group that will arrive and put some love in the Titans. So optimism is my word, basically.
Perfect, man. Well, we are excited to see you in a couple weeks.
Oh yes, me too.
Yeah, it's going to be an excellent time, and you guys basically own the draft, kind of like we did last year. So
Yep.
It's an exciting time. Again, thanks for joining us on this episode, sir. And we will see you in a couple weeks.
Talk to you in a couple of weeks. Have a great show, guys.
Thank you. First time guest, and we are here to kind of not necessarily talk about the Moosehead season, because we want to put the past behind us, not only in Halifax but here as well. And but no, looking ahead to the draft, I noticed the Mooseheads kind of are trying to hype up the fans, but can't really do that when you don't have a pick till the third round. But obviously,
well, Jeremy, the reality of it is we're in a rebuild year.
Yep.
Okay, you guys are at your height. We're at a rebuild year. Now, you say we don't have any first-round draft picks, but we both know that's going to change.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're going to have draft picks. Come the draft. We know of some deals that, behind the shadows that are going to happen for sure, that have been their future deals that were made last year and previous year. We know there's a couple of boys going to you guys. So we're going to get our draft picks back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of what we're going to do with it and what year we're building for, really.
No, for sure. I was going to bring that up. We saw the tweet from Stefan Leroux-Vardias basically saying that, Cataford was going to Rimouski at the draft, and that's easily going to get you guys a first round pick. I'm looking at the draft board right now, and Rimouski picks 11th. So.
No, we're going to get more than that.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There's given the situation in Rimouski, I think they've done really well when it comes to stocking the cupboards for what's coming for next year. And do you like the idea of of trading Cataford away at June, or would you be more on side of, keep him until Christmas and try to, win as many games as possible and get your pick out of that lottery spot for the 2025 draft?
So that's an exceptional question, actually. Exceptional question. Of course, I want to get rid of him at the most opportune time. So whenever we can get the most for him is when we want him. And I hate talking about these kids like they're a commodity, but the problem is, the reality of it is it's a business and they are a commodity. I want to see him gone before the season even starts. I don't want to have a chance to get to love the kid again. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Not in this case. The less I see him play, the more I'm okay with him gone. I'd like to have something going into the draft. If we can pick up a future Denoyer or something like that.
No, you already did that once. You're not doing that again.
Levesque's 20-year. That's all I need.
Yeah, no, you guys already got our best Denoyer once. You're not getting that twice.
No, I said like.
Okay, that's
a future Denoyer.
Okay. I can deal with like. Yeah, you're not getting a Denoyer from us twice. So just to piggyback on that, I mean, you guys got a lot of players: McKinnon, Rousseau, Brady Schultz. I know there's a few that I'm missing. Just what is this rebuild look like? Do you guys keep Rousseau until Christmas? Do you keep some players to try and get some wins, like Jeremy said, or is this just a flat? If it's not nailed down and it's not Levesque or Kilfoyle, it's out the door. And those are just the two players that I can think of.
So those are, I think, are going to be our heavy hitters in 3 years.
Yeah.
When we're looking to go for it, I don't think we're on a 4-year rebuild. I think we're going to be on a 3-year rebuild. As you know, we pushed all in last year, which left our cupboards empty because it wasn't our year. This year was our year. And there was a bit of drama and stuff that happened that kind of set us back.
You don't say.
You don't say.
Yeah, I won't say. But the reality of it is we have two really strong players in Kilfoyle and Levesque, and I think we can build for Levesque's 20-year. He's 1 year older than Kilfoyle, which would be 19 for his 19th year. And if we can get a couple players to complement them out of these next couple drafts, I think we'll be sitting pretty in 3 years. As for the players that are here now, Rousseau I'm expecting gone by Christmas. And Schultz I'm expecting gone probably by Christmas. Vidicek, Cataford, McKinnon, they're all gone before the draft, I would say.
A deal that you guys made at Christmas last year was obviously that pick swap with Moncton. You guys used those picks to go out and get Peter Reynolds, which, let's just say, kind of backfired and didn't go as planned. But
backfired? That's an understatement of the century. That was the worst trade we've made in years.
Yeah, it will go down as one of the worst trades, but also at the same time could end up being one of the best trades that the Wildcats ever made, given what's being talked about. I know. In a situation where we don't want to give away names or anything like that, but what do you?
Well, he's a hometown boy.
Yeah,
we can say that.
Yeah, no, we can easily see that. Yeah, Adam's a pretty good golfer. I think he probably hit his house from here.
Yeah, probably.
We can also say that everything as of right now is speculation. Nothing has been
100%.
set in stone by your team or mine. But fans talk. Fans talk to billets. Fans talk to members of staff. We know some things, right?
We pretend we do.
But I think we're pretty confident on where that certain player is going to line up, and I think he's going to be with you next year, and I think you'll get him at the draft.
All right, from one Maritime debut to someone who's pretty much leading all the episodes that he's ever been on. Yeah. A lifer on the podcast. And I mean, with the Gardner rumors, I mean, there's no one better to talk to that covers UNB as well as the Sea Dogs. And he can give us a small idea what we're in for. Again, if it's true, from Station Nation, Mr. Jamie Tozer. Let's talk about St. John. I mean, they scrapped their way to a series against Drummondville. That's what they were rewarded with. Where is this team in terms of, I mean, Cricker just went to the U18s and, worked with Gardner in winning gold. So he's, I mean, thankfully he's okay. So he's got that past him, but he had that team playing well down the stretch to get into a playoff spot. Kind of where is this team in terms of, I mean, I know they didn't win a lottery, but I think technically they did with the pick that was there. But the 5th overall pick, where are the Sea Dogs right now?
Yeah, well, first of all, Travis Crickard, great to see him healthy again and having some success. Certainly a great experience with working with Gardner again and winning a gold medal. So that's awesome to see. And I really like the coaching staff they've assembled. I think this is a good group. But I think that this is similar to what Moncton's kind of gone through the past couple of years. We're seeing this team kind of not necessarily overachieve, but certainly playing pretty well with what they have. And I think the big challenge for this coaching staff now is kind of pushing them past the next hurdle. So kind of see what happens there. But I think there's lots of questions about the Sea Dogs heading into next season over whether they are even going to take a big step forward. I could honestly see this team having a pretty similar record, if not even a worse record than last year, to be honest. I would assume that they're probably going to have some young players in the lineup from this draft, maybe a few more from last year's draft as well. So I'm expecting this to be a pretty young team again with lots of 16s and 17s. Certainly an encouraging sign with the goaltending. Justin Robinson, I thought played really well this season. That was obviously a big concern over the past couple rebuilds. And they spent a lot of assets on goaltending. So if he can be a solid number one, that's a big problem solved there. But heading in the draft, this is a team that could kind of use everything. The thing with the Sea Dogs too is that they're still low on draft picks, even though they have 2 first-round picks. They're still rebuilding the stock from the Memorial Cup run. So certainly in terms of quantity, they don't have a lot of picks. They don't have a lot of players in the system. So any way they can kind of improve that, I think, is a win. I think they're kind of need to hit some home runs here at the draft if they want to kind of take off next year. So I definitely think there's some concern that this team might actually be pretty much the same as this past year, if not worse.
So when you say hitting a home run, are you on board with me saying that the Sea Dogs will end up with the 1st overall pick?
Well, that would be interesting. My question about the 1st overall pick is there like even a player that's worth moving up for that's guaranteed to report?
Well, look, there might be a guy that's that you guys might have had in St. John for a couple of years that might just happen to have a younger brother that might be willing to play there, but you never know. I remember us being in Quebec City for the draft, and there was talk about how you guys were taking Josh Lawrence 1st overall, and Joshua wasn't reporting, and man, the conspiracies around that on draft.
Here we go again.
The night before the draft were pretty wild, but hey, look, if a team wants to be better than they were this year, it's the Cape Breton Eagles. Do they need a 1st overall pick?
No,
probably not. That's why I'm saying I think maybe St. John goes with 5th overall and 8th overall. They also give Cape Breton back their 2025 first, and then they throw in a 2nd-round pick. They move all the way up to 1st, and the Sea Dogs go and take Tynan Lawrence.
Doing Stella's job there, eh?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And then Cape Breton moves down to 5th and 8th.
And have more.
And they turn those 2 picks into Justin Poirier. And who's the other one from Baie-Comeau?
I don't know.
One of the Boilard brothers. No, that's
Raoul.
I'm channeling my inner Drew Bear right here when I'm talking about this, right?
We're gonna need Gardner at this point.
There's 2 scenarios that I think are going to happen with that pick. Obviously 3. 1, Cape Breton keeps it. What I think there's no
massive
need.
Mistake.
They don't need a 16-year-old on the roster next year. They need superstar players. They need forwards or defensemen that are already known across the league. 2, Val-d'Or moves 3rd to 1st, so they have back-to-back 1 and 2. Or the Sea Dogs go 5, 8 plus Cape Breton's first next year, so the Eagles will get their pick back, plus a second, and move up to first.
Did you get all that?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
There's no other Chicoutimi. There's no sense in Chicoutimi going to get first. They're going to be good enough. I don't see the Eagles keeping the pick, and those are the only two trades that I can realistically see happen.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with Cape Breton dealing that first overall pick. I'll chime in on Tynan Lawrence a little bit. The last I heard about Tynan Lawrence, it did sound like he was pretty solidly going to play NCAA or college hockey, at least USHL hockey.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be there forever, but it definitely seems like he's going to be heading there next year. Which, isn't the end of the world. He could still come back as a 17 into the queue. It's not impossible. We've seen that from time to time. I also think the Sea Dogs, and this is looking way ahead, I think that they're a little intrigued by Alexi Joseph and the opportunity to land him.
Yeah,
and I think that this team's already kind of eyeing scenarios to how they can get that first overall pick next year.
Well, you'll probably have to be going up against Halifax, who will likely have 2 lottery picks next year. So
yeah, but St. John just wins lottery picks generally. So
well, it's Halifax. It's Halifax. The league has to give them one every year.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Last one on the Sea Dogs. 2 players, Matejko, Petal. Is either one of them moved at the draft, or either one of them moved at, or the other one moved at Christmas, or they keep them to try and get some W's and then move them at the Christmas to the highest bidder? Because those are probably the biggest 2 chips that you guys have to move, whether at the draft or the Christmas period. I don't know if you agree with that, or your assessment on those 2 players and when they could be dealt.
Yeah, Petal, I don't know. I think the Sea Dogs like Petal. I think he's kind of that big body type that ideally has some offense. I think that's the type of player this team kind of wants moving forward. And I think that the team, they kind of envision having more of those players. So I don't know if they're going to deal him. I think he could contribute, and I don't know how much they'd be able to get out of return for him right now. Maybe if he, explodes in the first half and they can get a lot from at Christmas, maybe they look at dealing him. Matejko, I don't know when they'll deal him, but I would be shocked if he's here all year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's moved to the draft. And I would imagine the Sea Dogs are probably looking at the import draft where they have a pretty high pick. So I would assume Matejko is probably going to be one of the top imports. I thought he had an excellent year this year, really improved his game. Probably going to be a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick in the NHL draft. I think he's going to be an excellent player. And an impact player on any good team next year. So any team that kind of has a questionable import slot right now that's contending, I would imagine, is interested in Matejko. I think he's exactly what a lot of contending teams would want.
You talking to us?
Yeah, it's
maybe.
Weird.
Maybe I am.
You're on the right show to talk about about
he
that.
Fits.
All right, man. Well, we don't take up any more of your time, and obviously, if the Gardner stuff comes down the pipe, we will probably have you on later again. And if not, we will see you in and around the draft. Am I correct?
You are correct. Sounds good, guys.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, guys.
Kind of had to ask a few questions about the Sea Dogs. Couldn't spend the whole time talking about Gardner. It may or may not happen, but I really hope he wrote down all that thing, or I hope the Sly or Stella's listening to your pick. But you're bang on. I mean,
they just have a really good trading relationship.
Yeah, and it's not like the number 1 pick is a Denvoyer or
that's it,
Zach LeBrew or an impact type forward that at 16 is going to make a big deal for Cape Breton. They need the experience more than the rookies.
And that's the thing, where if there's no clear-cut number 1, maybe the pick doesn't have as much value.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe they don't have to give 3 first-round picks. Maybe they give 2 and a second. There's when there's a player who's kind of above the class where that could be first overall, it's there's more sense to maybe make the deal or lowers the value. There's Cape Breton keeping the pick would be senseless.
Yeah.
They don't need a 16-year-old in their lineup next year.
No.
They're going to be all in, along with Moncton, along with Rimouski, and potentially Chicoutimi. That's what's going to suck about next year.
Yeah.
Because the way that the playoffs work, at least 2 of those teams are gone at the end of the second round.
Yep.
And that's what's concerning me about an all-in.
Because in an ideal world, you'd like to get to the finals against Rimouski. So you're guaranteed to get into the finals.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed to go to the Memorial Cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very stressful, long season. And you know, we're, like I've said a couple times, we're competing with, and this was before Cape Breton kind of went on their run, we were going to be competing with Rimouski for trades. And Stefan Leroux come out and said Matthew Cataford is headed to Rimouski. Well, that's one of the players that was rumored early on that was coming here. There's a couple that we could get, but if like I said to Jamie, I don't know if it's going to be, I won't believe it till I see the graphic and I see the press release and you and I are standing there trying to figure out a question to ask Gardner, or potentially interviewing him after, like we have done with other interviews. I still probably won't believe it, but we're going to go so all in. Like this draft, we're going to have nothing until Saturday at like 4:00, it seems, because we're just going to be getting picks and players.
It's funny because the Wildcats, along with Bathurst, have the most picks in the draft. We have 16, and Bathurst have 16. How many of those 16 do we actually pick?
5. We got a second, 2/3, a fourth, or second, 2/3, 2 fourths, 2 6s, 2 7s, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So, and a third and a fourth next year, and 2 firsts in 2026 and 2 seconds in 2026 that we have now, but they will go back for players that will impact.
The talk after the Q Cup was, and Mr. Irving was there. Yeah. You know what? We don't want to say it was disclosed, but it sounds like the scouting staff are basically looking at who could be available in the 5th or 6th round that'll make an impact in the league
in 2 years.
Yeah. And that's their direction from the top of the chain. Find us players who maybe played a third line role in U18 that showed offensive flashes that'll go back there for development next year and lead the league in scoring.
Yeah.
You know, like they want players that are going to be, let's say, late bloomers who will dominate their teams next year and come in the following year in Moncton and be a top 6 guy. You know, they're looking for those, those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
Right. That will make it. That'll be impactful players in the league that weren't picked until the later rounds. I.e., I know it's different. Connor Garland.
Yeah.
6th round pick, but whatever. He was an American. But if you can find a Connor Garland in this draft in the 6th round, that's huge.
Yeah.
Right?
And
so I think that's kind of the mindset from the top to the coaching staff is get these, identify players who are going to be impacts. Doesn't matter what round they play in, what round we pick them. Just we want them to put up big numbers in the league.
And I mean, that was Richie's staple. He was able to, yes, he had some hits and misses in the first 3 rounds.
Yep.
But him and Alex and that scouting staff were able to find guys in the 7th, the 10th, the 12th, goaltender in the 14th round. They were able to hit on those depth guys down in the draft. But all right, and we saved the best of the division for last, and he owns the 2nd spot in most guest appearances from Hockey Island, the voice of the Cape Breton Eagles, Pat McNeil. Pat, how are you?
Doing well. I'll be better when I move into the number 1 spot. So I'll do what I need to do, and hopefully by the end of 24-25, that crown is mine.
Yeah, that's the exact same reaction that Johnny Rocket had. He's like, I'm only 3rd. I'm like, well, every time you come on, Pat wants to be on, and every time Pat comes on, Tozer comes on. So you guys,
I'm gonna have to hide from Johnny Rocket now. I'm a little bit scared of him.
Yeah, exactly.
No offense, Johnny. I do like it.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, looking back before we look ahead, you guys had a hell of a year, and Jeremy and I had said if you'd have told us when we came up that weekend, the home opener weekend, that the Cape Breton Eagles would be in the 3rd round against Baie-Comeau, I'd ask you what you were smoking and see if I could try some. But what a turnaround! It starts off the ice, which turned on the ice, or what a turnaround. Just talk about the end of the season. Didn't end the way you wanted to, but let's talk about the year in general.
Yeah, it was great. And as you said, talking about that opening weekend against Moncton, you guys would, as much as anyone outside of Cape Breton, have a real appreciation for the turnaround of the season. And that was even and the town hall. Louis Robitaille was talking about that. He had talked about how all year long, and it's one of these things coaches say a lot, so sometimes it comes across as cliche, not about how you start, how you finish, not about result, process, et cetera, et cetera. But this was one of those years, how the year played out, that really kind of came to fruition. A lot of excitement was built. There was a lot of changes in the organization at the beginning when Louis Robitaille comes in and Sylvain Couturier was in his second year. Then you had some off-ice changes. Obviously, the Eagles' social media, I think, was the talk of the league. So kudos to Brad Chandler, Carter McGillivray, and everyone else involved in that. So that was a lot of fun throughout the year, and things kind of snowballed, a bit of a perfect storm where the pieces come together, and then you get hot, and then a couple of the teams ahead of you fall, and it all came together for quite a magical spring. It's not very often. It's one thing to have a dark horse team, not a huge dark horse, but a bit of a dark horse find its way to the third round, but to go in there with an 8-1 record in your first 2 rounds after winning your last 9 games, pretty impressive, and it's something I think we'll remember for a while.
When you talk about the reason for the turnaround, do you say was obviously the team was energized with the return of Jacob Newcomb, but at the same time, you guys made the right moves, bringing in the right players with Thomas Saboka and Lucas Romeo. Is it a combination of both the trades and also the Newcomb return that really turned the ship?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both for sure. I think you would have seen some improvements in the second half had the team stayed the course. But as Louis Robitaille said, the best trade Sylvain Couturier made was the return of Jacob Newcomb. So you look at that, obviously Sabuka is a game changer in the back end. Romeo is a big goal-scoring threat, and under the radar addition as well was Charles-Antoine Lavallee. So bringing in all those guys, and basically 4 trade deadline acquisitions, if you're going to count Newcomb, all made big, significant impacts. I think, as I said, I think the team had a slight improvement. I mean, part of that was, if we're being fair, the team probably started below where it wanted to be. So I think the improvement came in bringing up the team to where they thought it would be at the beginning of the season. And then the acquisitions and the chemistry coming in and settling in kind of brought them up to that next level and allowed the run to the third round, which of course everybody enjoyed very much.
This is a yes or no question. Is Jacob Mulata coming back?
Yes, actually,
that was one of the weirdest things we've ever seen
at the town hall. But yeah, that's certainly goaltending and a 20-year-old are the main discussions that going on at Cape Breton right now for sure.
I don't know. I mean, we just had 3 sweeps in finals in CHL history, first time. That had to be the first time a player leaves in the middle of a playoff run to go to the U18s. But looking at your defense core, I mean, you guys have a decision to make in whether it's Thomas Saboka coming back as a 20 and a Euro or Braden Schmidt coming back as just a 20. Is there a sense they could keep one or keep both and maybe try and, move one at the draft or move one at Christmas? Or what's the sense in kind of on the back end there? Because they were both pretty big names for you guys.
For sure, they both were, and one thing that's worth noting there is that Sylvain Couturier has been open about the possibility of bringing Thomas Sabuka back. It seems like that's something they want to do, which, and this is not a disrespect to him, that's not always something you see with 20-year-old imports, but of course he may have some pro options. I think if you were to break down the roster, the club has been pretty vocal about that. They think all 7 19-year-olds from this year's team can play in the league, and I'd be inclined to agree with that. You look up front where you've got Hood and Newcomb. Then on the back end, of course, you've got Schmidt and Sabuka, and then Ruccia. To me, those are kind of the big 5. And I think Antoine Waugh and Charles-Antoine Lavallee are probably going to be automatically victims of the numbers game here. But they, to me, have certainly stated their case that they could play in the league. And I think they all deserve to, and I think they all will. Of course, Sabuka, the options there is a little bit different, where you might have that window open in Czechia. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of discussion, and I don't know how much of that's going to get cleared up at the draft. I was talking about that town hall. One of the better questions I thought that was asked, somebody asked about the possibility of starting with 4 20-year-olds, and Sylvain said the team was open to that idea. And then, of course, if Rucci is one of your 20-year-olds, you're getting into a situation where you could have 3 goaltenders and whatnot. So there's going to be a lot of interesting roster discussions with this team, and they might not be over after the draft. Perhaps we'll have even more questions than answers, but it's going to be a fun summer in Cape Breton, I think.
Yeah, and Adam said, it's not often you see 3 sweeps in the league championship finals. It's not often you see a goalie leave during the middle of a playoff run for the U18s, and you don't often see a team get the first overall pick when they're playing in the third round of the playoffs, which of course was awarded to to yourself, Pat. Not you yourself, but your
Congrats, Pat.
Your
thanks,
place of
guys.
employment. I guess just your overall thoughts on having the first overall pick, and do you see it being used? Do you see it being traded? Where do you see this this pick going?
Well, I won't be surprised at all if a team trades it. I think there's obviously been a lot of talk. They're going to do what's best for the organization, which, of course, is one of those things that's both true and cliche at the same time. Obviously, Sylvain Couturier is not someone who's been shy about making trades, although we've kind of seen that settle down now that he's really been able to implement his vision. You're looking at a team that, is in pretty good position to take a run at things. Although, as I'm sure you guys talked about elsewhere in the episode, this is shaping up to be a murderer's row of a conference. We're going to all be begging the QMJHL to go back to 1 versus 16 playoff seeding by the time we get to round 2, I think, when we've got 2 of Chicoutimi, Moncton, Rimouski, and Cape Breton on the sidelines heading into round 3. But that's getting ahead of ourselves here. In terms of what might happen, I think there's certainly a high probability in terms of the pick. Couturier at the town hall was very vocal about the fact he thought there was a clear top 2 in the draft. And of course, it might come down to how many games or how open these guys are about coming to the Q, because that's always something that's on the tables, whether or not guys are going to go NCAA or whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised. I think if I had to predict, I'll predict it gets traded, but I won't be surprised either way. I think it's certainly something that could swing either way. So it's obviously a good asset to have, and it was really unique actually. Kind of walking around the arena in Baie-Comeau, you're walking around, for me personally, getting to call a 3rd round playoff game for the first time ever, and everybody, all the Eagles fans, the parents and fans that you're running into are talking about the draft lottery, because I think it ended up happening about 20 minutes before the puck dropped, and that's not really something the league would ever try to factor into their scheduling, because usually those teams are long since gone. But certainly a night we'll remember for a long time, for sure.
Just to finish it up here, I've asked kind of everyone through the division. Obviously, you guys had quite the success to end the year. So you had the first overall pick. You went to the 3rd round. I guess just the fan appetite coming into the draft, coming into the season. Are a lot of fans wanting to maybe push this ahead a year and kind of go all in, or they realize it's a murderer's row in the Eastern Conference, let's just be competitive, get to where we got to in the 3rd round with our experience, and then move in next year when there's not as many teams in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you look at the team it certainly could be good the next few years, probably stronger next year, but the competition probably wouldn't be as strong the year after for the reasons that we just talked about. Depending on the level of fanship you have a lot of people who are sort of lapsed that are kind of getting into it. So getting back into it, so they might not really have taken a look at the competition. And there's also sort of a high when you're in the playoffs. Oh, this team's great. Look at all these guys. We're coming back. But a lot of people maybe not have the chance to sit back and look and say, oh, okay, this is what we're up against next year. So I think right now people are just kind of taking in the moment. Certainly there's people who, got on the bandwagon, so to speak, late in the season in the playoffs. Yeah, I got my season tickets. So that's exciting to see. Certainly more people in the building. But generally, I think there's just a lot of goodwill, which is both off ice and on ice too. The team was entertaining to watch. They were obviously successful. The organization has done a lot of good things in terms of marketing. We talked about the social media, but Joey Haddad's done a really good job as a GM and business ops. And also should give credit to the off ice version of Louis Robitaille, because we talk about his coaching, which is obviously good, but he's also been one of the guys who's been responsible for the social media approach and getting the guys out there. So he deserves credit for that as well. So I think right now it's more of a goodwill and just the kind of the novelty of having an exciting competitive team again, that perhaps people aren't too much looking at the particulars. One thing that is worth noting that kind of more ties directly into your question is Sylvain had said at the town hall he didn't want to go make sure that he didn't want to gut the team, because I think he was probably making reference to what happened in Bathurst in 2018 where they had the Memorial Cup. And he didn't say it explicitly, but if you look at what happened after, the T10 didn't really get a big bump attendance-wise from that, because there was a bit of a glow, but then the team, obviously goes into a heavy rebuilding. So I think he wants to avoid that, and it could be challenging to make a true push next year with the prices going up in the Memorial Cup and having those strong teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, that's not me quoting Sylvain Couturier. That's me kind of reading into what he said, that it might provide some challenges for the Eagles, trying to mount a true all-in run next year. But I'll say this, I'd be shocked if the team didn't at least try to improve next season, even if they don't go all in. So it might be, rather than an all-in approach, push some of your chips in both years and see what happens. So again, more questions than answers. And for now, people are just kind of enjoying the ride.
Perfect. Well, this has been fantastic, from one podcast host to another podcast host. You had us on the radio last year, so now we are ready to make our Eagles Nest debut when you're ready to make that happen. And who knows, maybe if we get a playoff series, we'll have dueling podcasts, and we'll jump on yours and you jump on ours, and we'll have a rivalry on the podcast network. But again, man, it was kind of fun to watch it. I mean, it's a rivalry, but it was good to see the fans of Cape Breton be rewarded for some tough, lean years. And, we just didn't want you to win the championship, but hey, we had fun watching your fans. And honestly, I was one of the big proponents of what you guys were doing on the social media. And I think you guys drove a lot of fans to the rink based on showing just what social media can do. So congratulations on all that things. And obviously the social media, the gear, and the new podcast.
Well, appreciate that. And you never know, maybe we will see some crossover next year. And I think if these two teams play, it will be a very long playoff series, and it could potentially be very deep in the playoffs. But look forward to that. It's always more fun when your closest geographical teams are your rivals on the ice. And I think we're looking forward to that this season.
Absolutely. Well, Pat, we'll see you in a couple weeks for the draft, and you have a good couple weeks before everything ramps back up.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Thanks, Pat.
What an episode. That's what the offseason does, just interview after interview after interview. But, going around the division, I mean, all three teams that we talked about there are going to push the Wildcats in terms of what this season could look like. I mean, Halifax and St. John are battling for 5-6 spot in the division, potentially with these three, with us four teams, right?
Yeah, I guess depends on what Halifax hangs on to until Christmas. They're probably more suited better to win some games in the first half and kind of create that separation.
Yeah.
But whatever happens. It's there's going to be some obvious. I think the division looks pretty predictable. The conference looks pretty predictable. But we actually have, I guess, an X factor now for the first time in a very, very long time, and so that could be very huge, a huge advantage for the Wildcats next season for sure.
Well, last year he was part of our draft live coverage leading into the draft from his place because he couldn't be in Sherbrooke, and we were devastated. So we thought this year, why don't we bring him on again when he's going to be here? He's going to be the host of the QMJHL draft on Eastlink both Friday night and Saturday. We've gone around the division to talk about each team, so now let's talk to the host of this, the man, the myth, the legend, living his gimmick, Mavs Gillis. Mavs, first of all, thanks for joining us with the draft in about 48 hours. I mean, what's your excitement level going into this, or is it just so much prep that you just kind of arrive at the day?
There's so much prep going on right now. Like, we're just coming off of 17 hours of track and field coverage from this past weekend, so going from one massive undertaking to another. But like the rumors, everything is already swirling. I mean, we've already heard that Cape Breton's looking at moving the pick, and looking at Valdor's looking to make some moves. Of course, walking into Moncton, where I think the biggest splash of the season's already been made by the Wildcats, signing Gardner McDougall away from UND. Like, there's a lot of intriguing storylines going into this. So, plus, I mean, again, it's my first time being at the draft live and in person. I think the last time we covered the draft in person live was when it was at Cape Breton, and I'm going to guess 08, 09 when Logan Shaw got drafted. So that, like, this is going to be, we're really excited for this. I know we got Greg McDonald, Craig Eagles, and myself on the desk. Troy Langstaff's going to be around on the floor, talking to everybody, and we're doing both days. So, like, I'm used to the 3-hour, 4-hour run on night one, and it being a marathon. Now I'm looking forward to the 100-meter dash, which, we just did a 100-meter dash. That is day 2 with everything going so fast and furious.
Obviously, with a different approach, with the Friday night first round and the rest of the events going on Saturday, I believe things kick off at 8 p.m. on Friday. If I were to say 10:37 p.m., are you saying before or after as the finish time for the first round?
10:30. I think it's 7 p.m. The draft, or it could be 8. Yeah.
It's 8 p.m. our time, 7 Quebec time.
Is it 7?
No, it's 8 p.m. Atlantic time.
It's 8. Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay. All right. So 10:30. You know what? I'm going to say 11. I'm going to say we're getting out of there at 11.
Taking the over.
I'm taking the over. Yeah, I'll definitely take the over. Especially with it being a draft class where there is some question marks there, and I think we're going to see teams taking their time. We might hear that wonderful timeout music a couple times. Of course, we're going to see transaction flash across the screen a few times as well. I mean, the movements have already started to happen. So let's. I think we're in for a long one, and I've been told day 2, a lot of teams got a plane to catch. So we are going to be moving quick through day 2.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's kicking off at 9:30 on time, and the Wildcats are advertising a finish time of 2 p.m. on Saturday. So that's 12, 13 rounds of picks in 5 hours.
Something like that.
Yeah,
5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, and again, there's no pomp and pomp and ceremony on that. It's table analysis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kid goes to the table, gets a photo, away they go. So
it's once the live drafts come back after the year we do not speak of, a lot of people are like, oh, it's too much, go to the virtual, blah blah blah, and I was like, no, we need to have NFL style, like 2 nights. Night 1 be for round 1. Saturday, just send the team representatives, a couple of them, have the GMs back in the quote-unquote war room. So I was basing it off the NFL, which Rich Eisen and that crew does an unbelievable job for the 3 days that they do it, 4 days. What goes into prepping as the host? Because I'm assuming you don't have all the information, all the prospects. You let your guys do that, because I know I do that with Jeremy. I just get the order and he fills in the prospects. But just kind of take us into what the prep is for a host for maybe round 1 and round 2, like knowing what the teams have and so forth.
I know right now it's looking at depth charts with teams, taking a look at the 20 situation, taking a look at what some teams have in the cupboards, and especially those last cuts from training camp and those call-ups, those kids that are looking to be part of the future for Q teams, and trying to find holes, trying to find team needs, taking a look at where some teams finished last year. And again, the tough part about it is the moment that they press the button and a lot of trades get made, a lot of that prep goes out the window. The other thing is really just taking a look at draft guides from around, there's a lot of good scouting services that are putting their information out there. Mm-hmm. Having those at the ready and really trying to get yourself into a good knowledge of these kids. I know Greg and I know Craig have been they are going to be very in depth on these players. They're going to know these kids. They're going to know where it goes. My job again is to have a good bit of knowledge on everybody, know where what teams are thinking about, talking to teams and talking to coaches to have just a general feel of them for the weekend. Mm-hmm. But it's just playing a lot of point guard and making sure that our production moves smoothly as well. So that's it is very tough to prep for, as we're saying, tough to prep for 12 hours of live TV. But again, it is the big open book oral exam.
Yeah, I was nervous last year when we were going to go live and I only had to do 1 round. I was just like, I got to know a little bit about these kids before I pass it off to Jeremy.
Oh yeah. And again, we're it's no secret. We've got our notes and we've got our prep right in front of us. And as I say, it's an open book oral exam. So when I need to look up something, when I need to become more familiar with a kid,
yep.
The internet's a wonderful thing. If the Wi-Fi goes down to the Avenir Center, we might have an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys won't be the only one with an issue.
Yeah.
Obviously, doing what you do, you had the opportunity to cover, some U18 action in Nova Scotia this year. Other than Aid McDonald, who decided to take his talents to the telephone city and join the Brantford Bulldogs. I guess who else caught your eye in Nova Scotia?
Well, I mean, again, we're watching Ice Jam, we're watching the playoffs, and keeping an eye on our regular season coverage. For me to pull names out of my hat right now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull out names out of my hat right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a shame to hear Aidan O'Donnell is going to the O, but again, we get it. It's his dad played there. That's where he wants to go. So we'll see what happens with him. I mean, for us, again, we're looking at like the Max had so many good kids this year. Like you have Daniel Walters. We had Aaron Chip, Angus Proctor. Like there's a lot of names there as well. Max Hanley out of Valley really his stock went up through the playoffs and also just through those tournaments as well. The Ice Jam, the Monctonian. So but there's also those kids that have gone away that we haven't seen from Nova Scotia that are playing away, and we get to find out all about them as well. But that Max team, I think we'll hear a couple Halifax Max be called for sure, because that'll be fun. The Bachelor kid from PEI, I'm excited to see where he goes as well. Big defenseman. So we'll see where he ends up in this draft too.
So obviously, I mean, we're going there to cover it / be a fans of a team. You're going there to kind of cover it, but what do you see as in this division? Like, I know last year when we had you on, you had to do a lot of prep for Chicoutimi because they had 4 picks this year. I mean, Bathurst seems to have, I think, 8 or 9 in the first round or something silly like that, it seems. I mean, just in this division, what are you kind of most excited to or most intriguing for you coming into these 2 days here in Moncton?
I'm intrigued to see what Cape Breton does, especially with, once they won the lottery. And again, I know it's moving and there's some rumors that they're looking to move down even more. So, I mean, I don't think they're done their moves out of winning the draft lottery quite yet. Mm-hmm. I am very interested to see the fate of the Halifax Mooseheads because all the rumors swirling about, I guess the stockpile that's being unloaded. I know that the Moose don't have many picks there. We'll see what are the returns for the Halifax Mooseheads after their moves that they make at the draft, and we'll see where they end up on the draft board. Again, it sounds like they are going to restart the wheel on that. And also, again, we talked about Gardner. I mean, for them, I know you guys, Moncton looks tremendous going into next year. Yeah. I'm interested to see where they go in this opening round and what they add to complement the team that they have currently on the ice. I mean, for St. John and Charlottetown, it's still kind of they're still in the downswing from going for it. I don't think Charlottetown's picking until the 50s, and I'm not. Again, St. John, I'm drawing a blank as to where they are at in the first couple rounds. But again, they've got their pieces right now. We'll see what they can add to it.
I think St. John's. They've got 2 in the top 10. I think they've got
5 and 8.
5 and 8, and
okay.
I think as of right now, those are probably the only picks in the top 10 that aren't being talked about or confirmed to be traded right now. So it appears Anthony Stella's kind of happy with what he's got, and he clearly thinks the guys he wants are still available. I guess your overall, if you were to pick someone who you think will go first overall, obviously I think there's Maddox Dagenau that people are saying will be first overall. What's your prediction on the Tynan Lawrence situation?
Ooh, it's tough because again, he's a Shattuck St. Mary's kid, from Fredericton. Like, does he? Everything is so weird now because you're playing that NCAA card there's going to be a lot more weight on that due to the NIL, because you're going to be, if there could be a pot of money waiting for you if you do wait out to get to find a way to the NCAA. I don't know I don't know who's going to take a flyer on him, but and not really a flyer. Who's going to be the one to convince him? Hey, we have a spot for you in the queue, and if you're willing to report, we're willing to pick you. He's certainly got all the tools, man, and he's got a big 6-foot left shot. See what happens with that pick, but again, there's guys that have gone to Shattuck that have had a lot of success in the queue from around these parts, so never count it out.
Yeah, well, you know what, Mavs? We're just excited to have you in our barn again at the draft. I know that last year we were hoping you were going to be in Sherbrooke for our live media roundtable, and you were crushed, we were crushed, and we were just we're pumped to have you back in the Avenir Center. I know you got a lot of prep to get going, so we don't want to keep you too long. So again, thanks for joining us again tonight. And hey, if you need some people on day 2 to talk to, we are available.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna throw you guys are gonna find Troy Langstaff, and we're gonna have you guys on for sure.
Yeah, perfect. We appreciate that. And you know what, Matt? Safe travels out here, and we'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, we're gonna see you. We'll see you up there. We're setting up Thursday, and away it goes from there.
Sounds good, buddy. You have a good night.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, it is mock draft time, which is what everybody has been waiting for. And again, we welcome in Austin Robson of Puck Preps, as we're now 48 hours away from round 1 on Friday night. So we are here, settle in for 14-round mock draft.
That was not the plan.
No. We're only doing a round 1 mock draft, of course. We've been doing this for about 5 years. Jeremy and I usually done it. We did it with Johnny Rocket. We have now Austin Robson joining us from Puck Preps. I guess just how are things going in there in the scouting world? And you got all your boards set, ready to go? And how are things?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. Thanks for having me back on. I actually just finished my rankings yesterday, so they're locked in, ready to go. Should be back on the site tomorrow, I think, out with an article and all that. And in terms of just scouting, I just watched my last game yesterday. I'm officially done watching hockey.
Oh, geez.
Nothing else I can learn. I don't really care anymore, so it's I'll wait till Friday. I need a nap, boys.
Yeah.
Your work is done. Are you hitching a ride to Moncton? Will you be in Moncton for the draft?
Yeah, I will be. I have a flight at 8 o'clock on Thursday night, so I'll be there Friday all day. I'm staying till Sunday.
All right, so we'll take the pen. We'll book you in for some interview as we go on day 2. If you're up for it, some live technology style infos or interviews there. All right, so we've had some rumored movement in the top 5, so we're going to kind of go with that on this mock draft because there's no point putting Cape Breton at 1 and then we find out when this comes out they're not anywhere close to 1. So you are on the board, Austin. You have the Quebec Remparts who have moved up from 4 to 1. So you are on the board with Quebec.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I remember I asked you guys if it was what we would do or if what it was the team was doing, and I'm kind of torn because I wouldn't do what I know what Quebec is about to do, and that's take Maddox Dejanay at number 1, but that's what I'm going to do because for the sake of reality. So I'm taking Dejanay at 1. He's a 6'3", 180-pound center playing out of Quint this year. I think he put up 83 points in 35 games or something, just absolutely dominated the Ontario League. In terms of like offensive upside. I can definitely see why they would take him a 1. I think he just has some holes in his game that he has to round out. I don't think he's like a Caleb Denboye who steps into the league right away, puts up like a point per game or anything. But I think by the time he's 18, 19, you will have your first line center there. So not a bad pick, just not what I would do. But I'll go with Desjardins at 1.
Yeah, it feels like that's the reason they moved up to 1 is they knew they could maybe get that commitment from him. So some of the rumors now, we believe Valdor is moving some picks to get Anton Vero. So it gives Ren number 2 is what we believe. So Jeremy, you were on the clock with the Ren Huskies.
Yeah, so that one, number 2, hasn't really been talked about as much as some of the other picks or trades that have been happening. So I don't know if it's actually going to be Ruan Aranda, but regardless of who it is, whether it's Valdor or Ruan Aranda, you can't go wrong with right shot defensemen. But again, before I make my pick, obviously I'd like to thank the wonderful people of Moncton for their hospitality.
I forgot to do that.
I'd also like to congratulate their Drummondville Voltigeurs on their Gilles Courteau trophy. And with the second pick in the 2024 Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League draft, either the 4 or the Huskies select a defenseman, Benjamin Cassette-Ayotte.
Well done.
There you go.
Yeah. That's a pick. Yeah, that's a pick.
I just know that from what I've seen is he's probably one of the toughest guys to play against in the defensive side. He's a pretty physical guy, and you can't go wrong with right shot defenseman.
6 foot 160, 6 foot 165 right shot defenseman seems like a good pick. So obviously Valdor had 2 and 3 going into this. By the time you hear this may have changed. So we're again going off rumors. We have Shawinigan being part of these rumors to move up. So they are the pick number 3. So Austin, you are on the board with Shawinigan Cataract.
Yeah, and I've run to the stage because I get to pick who I think is the second best player in the draft and the best player who I think is going to actually commit to a Q team, and that is Chad Liggett-Stakos from Trois-Rivières. I think he's adding him to one of the youngest teams in the league. You know, he gets a chance to play with like Cole Chandler, Olivier Grew is a player too I like quite a bit, and just over the course of the year, I think he had like the steepest development curve from day 1 to the end. In the Cube Cup, I thought he was the best forward. At the cross-border challenge, I thought he was the best player there. He's been dominant since February, I think, and it's just I think at 3 you're not going to get a lot more value than that. I know he's 5'7", but frankly I just don't care. So Liggett-Stakos at 3.
Yeah, and it's kind of a hometown pick too for Shawinigan.
Exactly.
Where played for Trois-Rivières, and I'm not sure if he's from Shawinigan or not, but Trois-Rivières is only a half an hour from Shawinigan, so that's an obvious pick. If I was Shawinigan, that's my pick as well. I think it's pretty obvious that's why they want to get that 3rd pick is to take Liggett-Stakos.
I would hope so.
I'm on board with you on that one.
All right, so Jeremy's on the board. He gets to put his Sylvain Couturier cap on.
Yeah.
Before you make the pick, do you think they have this pick?
I really don't think they do. I think Cape Breton's building for something special here this year, or they're hoping to build for something special. If they do, if there's any area of their team where they might want to focus a little more, it's tough to say. Who are they losing this year?
Sabolka. Couple forwards.
Yeah, this one's up in the air for me. I really don't think they have it. But if they do, I'll go with forward Jaden Plouffe.
Nice.
Yeah, so small forward. I know he's not. Where is he on you? He's kind of in the tens, right? I believe.
I have Plouffe at 11, but I've had him as high as forward 3. It's just his last couple bunch were a bit like underwhelming, but like I said, anyone from like 3 to 10 or 11, I would be open to talking about. It's that like wide open of a draft, so I can totally see this happening.
And to round up the top five before I ask my question to both of you, St. John is on the board, so we stay in the Maritime Division. So Austin, you are on the board with St. John.
Amazing.
Boo! Boo!
Yeah. I'll pick a bad player. Don't worry about it. I'll pick the worst player I can find. So the Sea Dogs are looking at a full rebuild. I was checking out their roster today, and their decor looks promising with guys like Amiet and Duhamel, but they lack that offensive piece on the back end. So I'm going to go with Alexander Tyfair from the Lions. I think he has the potential to be a first-line defender or first pair defender, the next level front of power play and all that. He's a bit slight right now. I think he's like 140 pounds. So that first year might be a bit of a learning curve, but in terms of ceiling, I don't think there's a defender that's better than him.
So as we round out the top five, a lot of movement in that top five. St. John is the only pick to not move or not be rumored to move at this point, and by the time you hear this, that could change. Is that a product of the draft not having a consensus couple players at the top? There could be so much, like you guys have your five, other mock drafts could have a completely different five. Is that why you guys think that there's so much movement in this top five? Jeremy, you can go first.
Well, I just think there's the top up top of the draft. There's a lot of guys who are leading towards, the NCAA or the Q. So I think these teams are moving into the top five because they know they can get the guy they want. Without having to possibly wait to see if it's still available when they come up to the mic. So for me, I just think it's, these teams, at the end of the day, it's not a very, I think Austin, you'll agree with me, it's not a very deep draft.
Right.
So at the same time, first round picks are always coveted. Doesn't matter what year it is. They're going to be impact players. And for the sake of this, going back to the Schwinnigan pick at 3. It's logical. It's a local kid. He's easily going to play for them. And Schwinnigan's just playing it smart because he's probably not going to make it to when they pick later on in the first round. So they're just using their assets to go get the guy they want.
What about you, Austin?
Yeah, I think Jeremy's pretty bang on about that. Obviously, the Ramparts think there's a consensus one because they traded the farm for Dejanay. I wouldn't agree, but teams trading down, I think, is a sign that there's no consensus top 5 even. There's no guy you really want. And but yeah, like Jeremy said, we should win again. That there's teams that have their guy, right? So they'll trade up. But I think teams trading down definitely have the right idea here.
All right, and so we get into number 6. Chicoutimi looks to be moving up from 7 to 6 as part of a Valdor Victo trade. So Jeremy gets to put his Richie Thibault / Yannick Jean hat on and make the pick to Chicoutimi, who again added 4 superstars last year in terms of building to be really good this year. So what do you got at 6?
Yeah, so at 6, I'm going to take a big forward out of Seminaire Saint-François, the lettuce man, Romain L'Italien.
One of my favorite names when you translate the Q site to Romain Little Italian.
Little Italian lettuce man.
I found that out when I was looking at, history of Game 7. I was like, Little Italian. I'm like, that's an odd. Oh, that's probably, got it. All right, that makes sense. All right, so that deal, as Chicoutimi moves up to 6, Victo moves to 7, in the way of these trades that we're kind of piecing together from all Quebec media. We have no idea if this is how this is going to fall. So Victo in a bit of a rebuild. They've got the goaltender. They've got some pieces there. So who are you going to add to the Tigre?
Yeah, so I forgot that there was a trade. So I had Chicoutimi here at 7 taking L'Italien. So I got to reconfigure now. But yeah, so if Victoriaville doesn't get L'Italien at 6, I think they go William Yard at 7. He's not as skilled as a L'Italien, but he's a more well-rounded center. I think the transition to junior hockey is going to be a lot easier for him. He just has it all, the 200-foot game, the vision, the puck protection. He's, I think, a future number 1 center in the league. I don't think the production is going to be like anything insane, but he's going to play everywhere. Power play, penalty kill. So take William Yard.
Nice.
All right, Boucher, you're on the clock for the Sea Dogs.
On the clock for the Sea Dogs.
They already added Alexander Telefor at 5, so you're on the board with them.
Yeah, so logically, I want to get back to that St. John pick because I remember when St. John hosted the draft in whatever year Pelche was picked.
2017.
2017. I remember Mr. Irving going up to the microphone and saying, "And a big shout out to the greatest hockey fans in the queue, the Moncton Wildcats fans." So makes me wonder if Stella or Trevor Georgie remembers that, and he's going to say something similar.
And if they don't, hearing this, they will.
They will absolutely go find footage of that and make up their own script. But I think I'll follow with I think I'll go with back-to-back Lac Saint Louis boys here, and to the St. John Sea Dogs, Dylan Rossi.
Will that Rossi report to a Maritime team this time?
Yeah, that's something to think about.
Yeah, we were saddened. The other one didn't report to us. So we stay in New Brunswick, and we go up to the North Shore. So Johnny Rocket will pay attention to this one. So I don't know if you've ever met him, but when you're here at the draft, you will have the pleasure of meeting him.
I definitely will, yeah.
Yeah. You were on the board at 9 for the T-Town.
Okay, well, again, I had them taking Rossi, so I have to go back to my list.
Sniping ya.
Jeremy's taking all my players so far. It's getting ridiculous.
This is just like the real draft board. You got to pivot.
This is how you play the game.
But for Titan are one of the youngest teams too in the league. They've stockpiled a bunch of picks, so I'm going to go best player available off my board, and that'll be Thomas Brousseau from Saint Eustache. He's a winger, but I think he could play center too. He's just that like smart, skilled. I've bumped him up all year. He ended up at 5 on my list. I think they get great value here with Rousseau.
All right, Boucher, you're back on the board. You took the lettuce man at 6 is L'Italien. So the Chicoutimi, the pick number 10. What do you got?
Well, pick number 10, Chicoutimi.
Again, if they have this, they've been known to move up and down the board.
Yeah, if they have it. They took if I took a forward with them last time, will they go and add another forward, or will they go with a defenseman? This, I think, they've got enough picks in the first round to maybe take a risk with this one. But if I took a forward with their first pick, I'll take a D with their second pick. I'll go from Bishop's Kearney selects Cameron Chartrand.
Wow.
Have him and Alex Wong on the back end as right shot defenseman would be quite the offensive prowess.
That'd be something, yeah.
That would be a dangerous back end for many, many years to come.
Yeah.
I've heard it's 50-50 right now whether he shows up. He's gone to like all the events like the combine and stuff, but I heard he's listening to some offers from BCHL and whatnot.
So it's risky. If he doesn't come, they get a compensation pick next year, and
I don't hate it.
That's it.
5th player on the board according to the CSR list, so he was the best player available so far.
They go and get him one pick before the Memorial Cup hosts.
That's exciting. If you're just joining us, A, what have you been doing? And B, to recap the top 10, Quebec moves up to the number 1 spot. They take Maddox Desjardins. Rennes takes Benjamin Cossette, I believe. Oh, yeah. That's it. Yep. Shawinigan takes Chad
Lichitsakos.
Cape Breton takes Jaden Plouffe. Got that one. St. John takes Alexander Telefor. Sags take Roman L'Italien. Victoriaville, William Yard. St. John, Dylan Rossi. And Bathurst takes Thomas Rousseau. And the Chicoutimi rounds out the top 10 with Cameron Chartard. So you are pick 11, the Memorial Cup hosts, if they have it, because they can move to
probably won't.
They probably won't because they're going to be adding some players here. But if they do, I'll give you a bonus point if it's a different team in the same name. But what do you have for Mooski at 11?
Yeah, I expected them to trade it, but like I said, we can't really predict the future. So I think if they do take this pick, I think it'd be wise to take someone who can slide into your bottom 6 right away, make an impact plays a heavy game. That is Ryan Howard from the Lac St. Louis Appliance. He's a physical north-south player, good forward checker, some skill. I think he steps in right away, but plays like a fourth line, third line role. So yeah, Ryan Howard.
All right, Jeremy,
I just pulled up my mock draft on my phone, and this was one I did 2 weeks ago. I have Ramuski at 11 taking Ryan Howard, so we're on the same page. Yeah.
There we
at
go.
the same time, are they gonna have this pick as Memorial Cup hosts? Probably not. This will likely belong to Halifax for Cataford, Drummondville potentially as well.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
So you get a half point if the name is the spot 11, but it's a different team, just so you know how this point system works. That doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
All right, so we've got Jeremy at first of 2 for Gatineau.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the board at pick number 12. So where are you leaning here with pick 12?
I'm going with a forward who had a very, very, very good QMJHL Cup. One of my favorite names in the draft, Enzo Lawton.
Enzo. Where's he ranked?
He is 19.
Oh, yeah, there he is. Lawton.
Yeah.
That's on
CSR, yeah. That's
yeah.
I got the CSR.
So I was like, I think I have him at 10.
You have him at 10. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I got my laptop with the CSR just because I'm writing the names down, so it's.
It's a lot better. So.
Yeah. Sherbrooke is on the board with the pick they got from us last year in the Sean Carrier deal. So you were on the board with the Phoenix.
That's awesome because I had taken Enzo Lawton. So this is ridiculous, man.
Okay,
Jeremy hacked me or
here's the
something.
key. You have to go second in the mock drafts. Like this is your first time on the show. I learned many years ago you have to go second because if you go first, Jeremy ends up getting the snipes with the even numbers. But
getting the scraps, yeah. Look at this guy go.
Yeah, he's got it.
Okay, well, thinking on my feet here, I'm gonna go who I think would fit in pretty well alongside Louis Alex Tremblay on the blue line. I'm gonna take Biagio Jr. D'Angeli, the defenseman out of Laval, Montreal. Probably the best skating defenseman in the draft. The offense isn't there yet, but it's a work in progress. But he's going to thrive in like transition, I think, like moving pucks up and all that. So yeah, D'Angeli.
Nice. I actually, if I would have had this pick, I would have been going off the board a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a kid by the name of Liam Dubé.
Yeah.
Who was playing over in Switzerland, in the U17 league. His dad, Christian Dubé, played in the NHL, but he also played for Sherbrooke.
Oh, okay.
In the Q. So there's a Sherbrooke connection there. It's not necessarily off the board. I don't see him on your list, probably because of a just lack of viewing, right? I'm assuming.
He's there. He's at 30, I think, 30 or 29.
Oh yes, okay, sorry, yeah, 29. I see him now. Yeah, okay, there you go.
29, yeah.
He's there.
30 on CSR list.
30 on CSR. So I think there's Sherbrooke. I think likes him, and there's the family connection there. I think that's probably logically who I think they're going to take.
Here, when you said off the board, I thought he was going to be like far off the board. And I was going to be like, we think that GMs around the league listen to our mock drafts, but if they do, they're probably like, shut up. Shut up. Kind of out of left field. So, Mr. Boucher, you were on the board. 14 again, Gatineau. They've added Enzo Lawton.
Enzo Lawton. So I guess, again.
Now, the phone's ringing, Jeremy.
The phone is ringing.
The phone is ringing.
Yeah.
McDougall Magic is on the phone.
The Moncton Wildcats are calling.
They want to get back into the first round.
Yep.
They know that Gatineau's had 2 picks.
Yep.
Is there a player here they would call to get up into that first round to make a splash with a home draft round 1 primetime?
Well, Adam, it's funny you mentioned that. Let's see who's left on the board here.
Should we put? We're going to put the board at 14. We're going to put this trade in.
Yeah, we're gonna.
We have a trade to announce.
We're doing this live on the podcast.
We never do trades, but we're going to live guess a trade here.
But you know what? I see where you're coming, and I'm on board with it.
Yeah, well, it was yours.
And Mr. Robert Irving and the fine folks at the Wildcats organization will step up to the mic and steal the show and select from Shattuck St. Mary's, Tynan Lawrence.
I'm freaking out.
So you'll know that this trade happens, and this is happening if Mr. Irving is at the draft table.
That is correct.
For the first round.
That is a good indication, folks. If you see Mr. Irving at the Wildcats draft table, they are doing something.
Yeah, and we know this because last year he was there for pick 1, he was there for pick 6, and
then he was out.
We watched him walk right by us, and we're like, well, they're going to trade that 18th pick, so they're done. So that's kind of how that works. There's a ton of rumors floating around that Moncton's going to get back into the first round. I don't know if you think that's a possibility, Austin, in terms of not only Moncton getting into the draft, but selecting Tynan Lawrence, who has the connection with the McDougals. He's a player that might not report, so they can afford to work their magic. But I think when Jeremy and I were talking about the rumors of getting into the first round, to me, Gatineau, he had the player. I had the spot in that 12 to 14 because Gatineau has 2 picks right there that you can get in. But do you see that something like that going down?
I actually never thought about it until you guys just did it. But if they do that, I think the only player you do that for is Tynan. You don't do that for anybody else that I can see anyway. So yeah, but if you do it and he reports, that's genius. That's but it's a big if for sure. There's just no one else that I would really do that for except him.
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, there's a player, a defenseman for the Flyers in Gucci, but I don't know if you moved to 14 to get him because you just don't have a spot for him. Like it's tough to put him on that back end. So I hope we didn't snipe your pick at 15 together as you're on the board. As Valdor has moved from 2 and 3 down to 7 and down to 15 eventually. So you're on the board with Valdor here.
Okay, so I'm taking a big reach here because after they took Jordan LaBelle last year, I get the inkling that they like to hit on big and intriguing prospects. So I'm going to go with defenseman Michel Milosrdny.
Nice. Oh, he's a monster.
6'6", 200 pound defenseman. He's got some like offensive instincts too. Like he's very raw right now. I think he needs at least a year or two like away from the Q to base to hit. But when he gets there, he could be good. Just not right now. I think I have him at like 45 or something, just based off the risk factor. But
for sure. No, I actually on my
That's a big boy.
The one I wrote down myself, I have him at. I think I had him in my first round, but I made some changes last week. Yeah, I did. I made some changes, but I did have him in my first round, but I made some changes there recently, so he was kind of in that same area. I think I actually had him to Bathurst at 18, so he was in my first round just because I heard the same thing. He's of size, but the project as people like to say these days, right? So
I think he goes in the first round, just not sure where.
I like the name with the classic double Y.
Double Y
to end it.
It's so sick. I love it.
Off. So Quebec is back on the board. They took Maddox Dejanay first overall with a trade from Cape Breton. So Mr. Boucher, you were on the board with Quebec at 16.
Yes. So the Quebec Rempart, obviously looking to not necessarily make a splash, but get some impact players right away. So I will go with a player who played away. I'm just trying to see where he was. We're at here, but I'm going to go with forward Tristan Venn.
Oh yeah,
played in Halton, Ontario.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, pick number 16 for the Rempart.
All right. That's exciting. What is he?
I like him. Actually,
yeah, you guys have him ranked pretty high, right?
I think I had him like 14 or 15 or something. So that's right around where I would take him.
29 on the CSR list. And for those following along, you can just go to the Q site, go to the draft, click over. You'll see the CSR list there, and then you can print your own list and keep track at the draft in round 1. So, Austin, you were on the board at 17 with Shawinigan. They took Lestakos, 3rd overall.
Yeah.
So you were on the board with them at 17.
So after taking a forward for the Cataracts, I'm going to go defense here from Levy Brandon Delarobil. Smooth skating, puck moving defenseman, a bit undersized, but he makes up for it in like a ton of ways. I wouldn't be surprised if he cracks a team right away, but he might need like half a year away before he comes over after the holidays. But yeah, really good. The point production wasn't there, but I think he's got some like untapped offense too in him for sure.
Mr. Boucher, you're on the board at 18 now, the final pick of what would be the first round, except for those two non-reports with Blainville and Gatineau at 19 and 20. Bathurst at 9 took Thomas Rousseau. Again, team that wants to get better. I'm not sure if they have this pick because teams want to get into that first round late in the draft. But what do you have at 18 for Bathurst? And we know Johnny Rocket is listening.
Yeah, so I think we're going to make the Moncton crowd a little excited with this pick. Local boy from the Flyers, Jacob Gucci.
There it is. There it is.
That makes sense, yeah. I like that too.
Not many defensemen his size that can fly like him.
No,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, and I don't know about that Macedoni kid, but if with his size, is he the type of player like Gucci? I know Gucci, like I've seen him a few times. He's big, but he uses his size well in gap control and smooth skater. How do you compare him to? I'm just going to call him Michael at 6'6", 203. How do you
call
compare?
Him 6'6", yeah.
How do you compare those two players in terms of skill here?
Gucci is definitely more advanced in terms of like his rush defending and like gapping up and whatnot for sure. Like I think Gucci has the chance to step in next year and play like a bottom role, on like any team really. With Michelle, it's more of like what you could be. With Gucci, it's like what he is right now. Like there's very little risk to picking Gucci. So it's a bit of like two different worlds, right? Like, are you willing to take the risk, or you just want someone who's gonna play but might not be as special?
Right. All right. So you were on the board, 19, Blainville. So everything I've been told, Gucci and Batchelder are 1-2. So you have to pick Batchelder. No, but I was told that early on that they were kind of in New Brunswick. They were kind of the top two defensemen that were gonna kind of go beside each other, or around each other. So. But obviously, the Armada are here, and this, I guess, needs to be kind of an impact player as of right now. When we do this on Monday, they may have more picks, but they have this pick, and then they don't pick again till the 5th round in this draft. So where does Blainville go with their first round pick?
I'm gonna go with a personal favorite of mine, Benjamin Olivier from Charlemoix. I think at 5'8", 156, he might slide a bit because he's a bit undersized. And I think he strictly played center this year, so teams might overlook him. But he's definitely one of the more skilled and quick players in the draft. So I think that they'd be shrewd to take him. I don't think this happens, but it's the last pick, so I'm being a bit selfish here. I'll take Olivier.
Go get your guy on your draft board. And Jeremy, you finished this thing out. Gatineau's third pick of the first round. How do we end this thing on Friday night?
So we end this thing on Friday night with a defenseman from Collège Charles Lemoine. It is J.S. Daigneault, Jean-Samuel Daigneault. And that concludes the first round of the Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League draft. Please join us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for rounds 2 through 14.
Yeah.
9 a.m. Huh? That's brutal. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no.
Hashtag Team No Sleep.
Yeah, I know. God.
And if you really don't want sleep, you can just pop up to find us and jump on our live as we get everyone set for Moncton's second round, and or talking about Tynan and Lawrence. So obviously the mock draft is in the books. How do you guys feel about this mock draft? And if this, in a perfect world, these are the players in round 1, how do you feel about round 1 as a whole?
I think it looks pretty good. I think there's a couple other guys that could have probably snuck in there. Louis Felix Gagnon from the Blizzard could have got in there. Other than that, I don't think. We got Gucci in the first round. We got De La Roseville in the first round. We got Lawton in the first round. there's a kid from Northern Moose, Zach Savoie, who's probably the highest ranked Northern Moose player that I can remember, or there's ever been. Right, so it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Bathurst has multiple picks in the first round. Do they try to get a local kid into their rink? There's lots of question marks, but overall, I think we did pretty good. We looked after some team needs and made a few surprises.
Yep. Austin, your thoughts on your draft in terms of who you were taking and the first round as a whole, and maybe who's best available for round 2?
Right. I think the draft here really starts at 5, just from what I'm hearing. I think we nailed the top 4. I know it's not going to go that way, but just based off what I'm hearing, it's going to be Desjardins, Benjamin. 3 is Chad, and then 4 is Cliff. I think that's spot on, but I think it really starts with St. John. Do they deal it? Do they keep it? Who do they take? I don't think Tyfair was more of a personal favorite, so I'm very excited to see where they go with that. In terms of best available for round 2, I really like Nico Okori from St. Hyacinthe. He's a really skilled forward. He's on the worst team in the league, so at times I think I did overlook him because he was struggling, but then he came to the Q Cup and really dominated. So I think if you're looking for a pick in the early second, he's your guy for sure.
All right, man. Well, 48 hours from now, we will see how many picks you guys have nailed. The bar is set quite low with the way that I've drafted in previous years. We've hit the names, just not quite in the order. So obviously excited to meet you. Thanks again for jumping on the mock draft, and safe travels out to Moncton this Thursday.
Sounds good, man. Can't wait.
Thank you.
Well, that was fun. Again, we don't usually do trades, but with the amount of rumors and kind of confirmed unofficial stuff that was coming out, it was too silly not to have that top 4 be changed around. But to add Moncton in the first round, and you brought up the name, I brought up the spot in some of the rumors that we had heard. It's so logical. It almost feels like it's not going to happen.
Well, you know what? It's we might release this on Wednesday, and then get a message saying, "Please cut that from your episode immediately."
Yeah.
This is just our opinion, right? This is why we're unofficial.
This is us just putting things together.
We have zero information.
You know that meme where the guy's like,
"Yeah." We have zero information.
Yeah.
Right. We're just going off what we think could potentially happen, and this if that were to happen, this is Taylor's first trade that he pulls off.
Yeah.
Right.
I was waiting for a song lyric or a title there where you're like, "This is Taylor's first." And again, it'll depend on the return on what it is and how fans view this, but we'd love them to get in the first round. We tried to be realistic where we're like, they move up to second overall to take this guy, because you can't do that. We have to try and go the best we can. But overall, I know I asked you before, but do you see a lot of movement other than the 4 that we kind of know on the actual draft floor? Do you see a lot of movement in this? I know Mavs said it was going the over 2.5 hours. But do you see a lot of movement in this first round with, as you said, a bit of a weaker draft class?
Just based on conversations and Twitter leaks right now, we're in for a long night.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of, as Mavs called it, timeout music, transaction music. So it will be interesting to see which teams come out of here with multiple picks. There's no goalies that are worthy of being picked in the first round, so it's going to be flooded with defensemen and forwards. And I'm the kind of guy that if you pick a forward with your first pick, you should take a defenseman with your second pick. You know, that's my approach as a as a mock draft guy. But a lot of these teams follow their boards, and you know, if you took a forward at 3 and you know you're up again at 13, and the best player available on your board is a forward, you're going to take forward.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you need more forwards on your team than you need defensemen.
Yep.
So it all depends on, you know, the approach and who these teams like. Because like Austin nailed it. It starts at St. John.
Yep.
I'm pretty confident like you said, we have the top 4 picks right. I am fairly confident in that. Whether it's in order or a few mixed around, those are the first 4 that'll go off the board. Yeah. He had St. John's pick. If I'm St. John, I'd probably take Yared or from Lac Saint Louis. And at 8, I take Cameron Chartrand because you have 2 NCAA guys that will easily commit to St. John because they've had a history of taking NCAA guys.
Yeah.
So it's he's right when he says the draft starts at 5. The draft starts at 8. But the show starts at pick 5.
Yeah. Yep. And so, we have made it. So round 1 kicks off Friday, 8 p.m. Atlantic time. Don't forget, it is a free event. Come down. Lots of free parking.
Speaking of free, Saturday morning.
I was getting there.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had it written down or not there, but I just wanted to make sure that we had it covered.
Yeah, no.
So that's
I
good.
will let you get to that in just one moment. So Friday, outdoor activities start at 4 in the plaza. And again, you can get in at General Public Admission. Starts at 7. The show starts at 8. If you are on your way down there or you're listening at work, you know who you can listen to? Us. On Q103. We will be with Brock Gallant from 3:30 to 5. We'll make our radio debut as well, get you set with some spicy rumors that are coming down the pipe. And then Saturday morning, Jeremy, what's happening Saturday morning?
Saturday morning at 8 a.m., there is you want to turn this here because I kind of forget what it was.
I thought it was on here.
A pancake
breakfast.
A pancake breakfast.
Yep.
Being sponsored by the United Way or compliments of the United Way. I'm not sure exactly the wording of it. But it's at 8 a.m. in the plaza, the Oval, the Ian Fowler Oval. So it is first come, first serve from my understanding.
Yep.
So if you're up earlier on Saturday morning, which I will be, not Adam.
Draft day, I'm up early.
Come on down. It's got some pancakes and have yourself a nice hearty meal before sitting inside the Avenir Center for 6 hours.
Yeah, and don't forget, while it is a free pancake breakfast, they are taking donations.
Yes.
So donate. All the proceeds go to the United Way. And then, next week is our Season 7 finale. We will have a draft recap as well, some of the interviews from the draft as well. And we will see if we can deliver a guest. We usually try to deliver a bigger guest on the season finales and the season premieres. But, this is the best time of year. The rumors kick off. They've already been going, as we talked about in the mock draft. And then it's draft day. We're going to be live either where the Three Sisters section is at the bottom of 119 or up in 108 where the organ is. So no matter where we are near the end of the draft, come by, say hello. We're going to be around all weekend as well. Pop on, say hi. We'll sign autographs, take selfies. Jeremy will bring the sunglasses. But it's a fun event. It's free admission. You can go in and out of the Avenir Center. Let's support this thing and show the kids that are going to be putting on Wildcats jerseys that there's excellent representation from the Fanbers. Oh, see you next week. Enjoy the draft. And, of course, let's go Oilers. Let's go Oilers. For Jeremy, I'm Adam. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wildcast podcast. Follow us on social media at Moncton Wildcast.